For me, and for all of the other Mass Effect fans, the wait for the next game, or even just information about it, already feels like an eternity and is surely going to be at least a few years longer. So, to cope with that, I'll be making this very video. I am Bon, and today I am going to chat about everything we know about the next Mass Effect game, some educated speculation from things that we've seen, and finally, some of my personal hopes and wishes for the next game. For the too long didn't watch, so far officially we have a teaser trailer, a teaser poster, some vague tweets from Michael Gamble, some tidbits from hiring listings, and a lot of speculation on when the game may come, which seems to have fallen in the late 2024 to early 2025 window. If you want to hear my deeper thoughts, my explanations, and reasonings behind a bunch of my ideas, stick around. Okay. The first thing, so I'm going to break this down basically into things that we know, things that I think we can pretty reasonably guess, and then things that I want to try to keep my own personal hopes and desires out of the factual part of the video. So that's what we're going to start with. So we have a teaser trailer. This came in 2020 during the Game Awards, and I will break down the trailer fairly quickly, and I'll talk about it more when I do the other parts. So the trailer opens by showing the Andromeda Galaxy relatively small and in the top left of the screen, and the Milky Way taking up most of the rest of the screen, especially in the middle and bottom right. The camera dives into the Milky Way, and we begin hearing sound clips from early human space travel, trilogy era events, and the Andromeda references as we pass by things in space like a bunch of debris and a partially destroyed relay. The camera then shows a ship flying towards a planet, followed by a figure walking up what appears at first to be a snow-covered hill, but is then shown to be a dead Reaper covered in snow, with another Reaper silhouetted in the background that also appears to be dead. The camera shows a close-up of the figure's hands picking up a shard of iconic N7 helmet, armor, and pulls back to reveal it's Liara, who looks up, smiles, and gazes upon a ship with 3 additional crew members standing outside of it. The teaser ends with a big musical beat and the words "Mass Effect will continue" come across the screen. Okay, so that was in 2020. So in 2021, on N7 Day, we got a teaser poster, and I'll kind of describe it, and here in the video, I'll also show the image. The teaser poster shows a ship on the bottom of the image with the SFX tag, Mass Effect 1's code name, if you didn't know, with a pretty clear SR1 color scheme and markings. Above the ship are 4 figures walking together, with one of them really obviously being a Krogan wearing red armor, and the other 3 being less easy to tell. My guess has been it's a human Turian and an Asari. They're walking towards the top part of the poster, which shows a large round crater with what appear to be dead Geth and maybe Quarians strewn about the area. From a distance, this crater also very obviously is supposed to look like a Geth head, the silhouette, including the signature horizontal light of beam, the beam coming off its light that we've seen so many times in the games. There have also been things noticed like a subtle N7 marking on the left side of the photo in the sand, and the head of Bioware claims there are 5 clues in this image, but no one from Bioware has ever officially come out and said, here's the 5 things, or so we may not have even found them all yet. Beyond the teaser trailer and the poster, around when I believe the trailer came out, Mike Gamble did have some kind of vague tweets and responses to people. These are 4 of them that I was able to find. There's some concept art that looks like kind of the outline of an Angara in the background, and someone tweeted Mike Gamble saying, as most people have already deduced, the trio appears to be Angaran, Drell, and Solarian. So, Andromeda, ... but who is on the left? This is a 4th figure that isn't clear who it is. Mike Gamble's response to this was, don't be so sure about anything you just wrote. The next tweet came from a screenshot from the trailer with Liara walking up a dead Reaper. And someone says, Reaper? And Mike Gamble responded, I'll give you this one for free. Yes. There's another tweet that just has text and it says, opening shot, also very pointed imagery of the 2 galaxies. My mind is racing. Are we going to get ... a single sequel for both games? Question. And Mike Gamble responded, intentional. Tweet 2, another one. I heard Godspeed, and all I can think of is that moment of taking off in a Tempest for the first time. Mike Gamble responded, intentional. There's also been some things to deduce from some hiring that they've been doing over the last year, especially the last 6 months. They've had a large number, I believe 7 or 8 director positions open on the Bioware team specifically for Mass Effect. And only 2 of those, as of the last time I looked, are still there. So they're filling up the leadership, which is really good, including the narrative director, which we now know is Mary DeMarley, who worked on the last Guardians game, the last few Deus Ex games, and a bunch of other stuff. It was a huge get for Bioware, and especially the Mass Effect team. We also know from the hiring listings that there's multiple references to the Unreal Engine, and it seems like it's basically an unannounced confirmation at this point that we're going to have the Mass Effect returning to the Unreal Engine, which after the last venture, I'll let you make your own decisions on that, your own opinions. The final thing is we've had multiple Bioware blogs, even just in the last year. They've actually posted, I think, 2 or 3 of these that mention the next Mass Effect game. They basically have said things like, we know you're excited, we're working really hard, we're very early in the game. And they've been pretty subtle and vague about the next Mass Effect, except to say that it's happening. It seems obvious that right now their focus is going to be on Dreadwolf, which is probably coming out in the next year, and that Dragon Age game is going to need to take precedent because they want to sell it, right? So expect to hear a lot about that, and maybe not so much about the other games anytime soon. And so that's what I would say that we know. As for predictions I have based on these things, things like Unreal Engine 5, like I was saying before, seems all but confirmed. It seems like that's where they're going to go, both from a production point of view and kind of a legacy point of view. They tried Frostbite, it just didn't work. Andromeda and even Inquisition, even though it fared better, it just, they were trying to, it's a square peg, round hole kind of thing. I think that first shot in the teaser trailer, as well as the teaser poster, make it seem pretty likely that this is going to be a Milky Way based story. Now, mostly because of the pan directly into the Milky Way in the beginning of the teaser trailer, the Reapers appearing in the trailer, the dead Geth and the exploded relay being references to the Destroy ending, and even in that teaser, as far as we know, no Geth made it to the Andromeda Galaxy. Maybe they could write themselves out of that, but so far, I don't think we've seen anything to suggest it's going to take place in Andromeda, and I think we've seen multiple things to suggest the Milky Way, but who knows what we know yet? It's all still very early. I think that we'll have multiple crew members reappear in this game. There's a pretty common consensus that even if it takes place within a few hundred years of Mass Effect 3, that obviously we have Liara coming back, and there's a really good chance we could have other Asari, as well as people like Rex and any other Krogan that survived the ending of 3, and I think that's pretty likely. We could have a lot more reappear if the game takes place shortly after 3, or a lot less if it takes place many, many years later when all of the other species would surely be dead. I think it's almost certain that Shepard is involved in some capacity. I think that had to have been the intention of them showing that N7 helmet shard at the beginning of the teaser trailer, or at the end of it, that Liara is holding. I understand it could be any N7. It could just be a reference. It could just be a wink and a tip of the hat to the player base. But what I'm going to say is that you definitely put yourselves in a weird spot if you show the N7 helmet, if you show Liara with their obvious connection, even if it's not romantic. You set some expectations, I would say, with a majority of the community, that you've said in that moment, Shepard's going to be involved somehow. Now, whether we play as them, whether we play, they become a figure in the game or an NPC or just a legend, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it's guaranteed that Shepard is involved in some capacity. I think that this will be a story of rebuilding. I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that these trailers confirm the Destroy ending will be made canon. We have no idea if they're going to make anything canon. I've argued pretty heavily that I think they have to. I think they have to narrow down the potential story a lot. And the best way to do that is in the post Mass Effect 3 world, so that then they can expand it really big again, because I just don't think they can take everything from the trilogy and try to incorporate it all and then try to continue expanding. But maybe Mary DeMarley is a master genius and I have a tiny brain. We'll have to wait and see. I think there will be references to Andromeda, like in Gamble's tweets, which I'll talk about more in a moment. It's obvious that they aren't going to, get rid of it. It's not going to be forgotten. They are going to acknowledge it. It is there. Even in the beginning of the teaser trailer, they're saying, hey, Andromeda, we remember you're out there. Even if maybe that isn't going to be the focus of the next game, but I think it's almost certain we'll at least learn more about the initiative, more about the mysterious benefactor, because you have to remember, all that organization and the mysterious benefactor are still back in the Milky Way after that mission launches to Andromeda. So even they can still include the Andromeda story, or at least its basis, in the Milky Way, even if the game takes place right after 3, because that stuff is still there. And I think one thing that we're definitely getting is 4-member squads this time. I think we'll have our character and 3 more. In the teaser trailer and the teaser poster, there's 4 figures in both of them. I think that's a pretty conscious decision for them to show us that repeatedly. Inquisition already does that, the Dragon Age game, and I have a feeling that Dreadwolf will probably do it as well. And I think that that's going to be a direction they're going to try to go when it comes to banter and things like that. I would say it's more complicated for them, but it also opens up, I think, a lot of interesting possibilities when it comes to that. As for my hopes for this next game, I hope that they do canonize. Like I said before, I think they almost have to narrow the story down and then open it back up. I don't think that they can just push through everything that was there before. Personally, I hope they canonize the perfect Destroy ending. I hope Shepard lives, and I hope Shepard is significantly involved in the next game, if not the protagonist, at least to start. I've kind of said it before that I think we'll have the ability to do some kind of transfer of playthrough or something from like this, especially the Legendary Edition, where maybe, things like maybe like the Quarry and Geth thing, we can decide, even though I think that poster really implies that the Geth are all dead and that we're going to be doing something to try to investigate them or maybe bring them back. So that's one of the main things that has me guessing Destroy ending, because all the AI, including the Geth, including like Edie and stuff like that, are destroyed in the destroy ending, where they wouldn't have been in the synthesis or control endings, as well as the dead reapers, I think is another sign of that. But I still think that we're going to be able to have things like maybe the genophage cure, some various other maybe smaller choices, even though the genophage cure would be a pretty big story point, like the Rachni and things like that. I think that they will try to give us as much as they can, but I think they're going to canonize the destroy ending, and I hope it's Shepard. Now, as for bringing Shepard back, they can just make Shepard like the prologue. Like maybe, the game opens up and you wake up and you're in the rubble of the Citadel after, you set off, the explosions and killed all the Reapers and done the thing. And it has you picking up comms from Hackett and from maybe your love interest. Maybe they'll incorporate that. You can pick that from the legendary, and they're yelling at you, or you've got people like, "Hey, Shepard, where are you?" And you get rescued, and we have like the intro to the game. So they show us the controls, they show us the new graphics, everything's all pretty. Maybe it jumps forward 50 years or jumps forward even a few years to show the Citadel is starting to get rebuilt. The relays are getting put back together. Things are starting to come together a little bit. We have this tractor beam between Earth and the Citadel, so that's expediting things. I don't think Shepard has to be the main protagonist for the whole game. I'm almost 100% willing to bet we'll start off as Shepard in the next game, and then maybe they'll send us off on a new journey. With that, I think that this will almost certainly, I hope it takes place shortly after 3. I've seen people do the whole, like, let's jump ahead hundreds of years so we can try to more easily incorporate Andromeda. Let's do it so that maybe they can jump ahead and keep all of the endings and just make all of the endings not matter. This push it so far ahead that no matter what ending happened, we ended up in the same place. I argue pretty repeatedly that if they do that, that's more disrespectful to the entire player base than to just the endings you don't pick to canonize. Just my opinion. Feel free to disagree with me down in the comments, but that's what I think. I think the focus on rebuilding and filling power vacuums will be a really cool story. One of my main issues with that big jump ahead is, 1, I think you hand wipe all the endings and that's disrespectful. 2, I think the immediate aftermath of the Reaper War is the most interesting possible setting for the next game. I think the idea of the Citadel Council and all of its species being messed up. I mean, the Reapers did so much damage, even though they were stopped, right? Even if the destroy ending is canonized and stuff, they still did almost irreparable damage to much of the galaxy, especially the relays and things like that. So I think that there's this, the Citadel Council trying to reestablish their power around the galaxy. I think there'd be a really interesting point there where more isolated parts of the galaxy could end up being, trying to, challenge the power of the council. I've even made a crazy prediction that I think the remnants of the initiative that were left behind after the Andromeda mission launched, the mysterious benefactor and all of the infrastructure and people who were left behind, could have turtled up for the Reaper War, and once the Reaper War was over, they started exploring, they start trying to help rebuild, because that was their mission, is to sustain Milky Way life, right? But then the council doesn't like that, because it feels like the initiative is starting to take power away from them. There's your conflict, and I like that conflict, because that doesn't make the initiative necessarily the bad guys. It just makes them the bad guys to the council, and then maybe we get to make a choice. Maybe we play as a Spectre or something like that, and we get to decide. Maybe we make choices that influences peace between the initiative and the council. Maybe it influences war, and we support one side or the other. I don't know. I think it's a cool possibility, but I do hope that they start to introduce a new big bad, or some type of big conflict, and that it isn't just the Leviathans or some big giant unimaginable force. I think that some type of branch, some type of rogue part of the Milky Way species trying to take power from the council, challenging the council, would be awesome. They could turn it into almost like a political thriller kind of thing, to make it, you're seeing what's really going on the ground. You're also hearing what like the council is telling all the people in the council spaces. I just think it could be really interesting to see that play out, and to be a part of that, and you could do that as Shepard. It would make sense. Shepard would be the best person to help with this. Or we could play as a new N7 that's been assigned with Liara, and through events maybe we become the commander, and we go on from there. I think it's a cool idea. That's just me. And the appearances of most of the old crew I think would be such a big deal, and even having some of them be like recruitable, I just think would be I think this next game has to play off nostalgia, whether people like it or not. And people like me can't wait. I would love that. Other people who may want like an Andromeda sequel or something, I think what we have to keep in mind is that I don't think going straight back to Andromeda is a sure sign of success. If anything, it may be a really bad idea. I don't think Andromeda is as bad as a lot of people do. I don't think it should be the next step. I think the next step should be a big nostalgia play that pushes the original trilogy forward, maybe pushes it toward Andromeda. And then if that game does well, then maybe we get a legit Andromeda sequel. I'd be totally down for that, but I think this next game has to wrap up some loose ends in the Milky Way. I think it needs to give us some closure on what was really a very open-ended ending. I know I've seen people say, oh, Shepard's story is over, blah, blah, blah. It literally isn't. It literally ends on a 100% cliffhanger, at least in the Destroy ending. And one of those endings allows for Shepard to live. So that's what I want. Down in the comments, please let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of all the things that we know, all of the things that I think, and all of the things that I want, and how they compare to you. I'm genuinely very curious. To wrap this thing up, thank you for watching the video, and if you want more, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and leave a comment down below with what you think, with what you want, and check out some of my other content. You can also check out my gaming podcast, the EchoCast, on all podcast platforms, including iTunes, Spotify, and this very YouTube channel. Be sure to check out my stream over at twitch.tv/BondDiesel, where I get on when I can. And I'm at BondDiesel on Twitter, as well as most other places like Instagram and so on and so forth. I am doing a campaign right now. My podcast, the EchoCast, got a media pass for PAX West. I can't afford to go, so I'm trying to raise the money to go. If you check out my Twitter, I have a link to a GoFundMe. If you want to chip in a few bucks to try to help to get me there, awesome. If I go, I'll have a bunch of great coverage. If I don't go, I'm going to refund all the money. I'm going to do whatever I have to do on GoFundMe to send it all back. So either I get really cool content that I show you, or you get your money back. Just throwing it out there. And that's where I'm going to wrap this thing up. That's all I have. So until next time.